Hello students, welcome to Study Circle. This video is intended for those students who are going to appear for class 12 CBSE board exams for history subjects. Today we are going to read class 12th theme 3 chapter number 9 Colonialism and the Countryside Exploring Official Archives. In this video, we are going to read the full summary and the important point of this chapter, and this video is very important for the revision purpose. So, without wasting much time, we are going to start this video. Before starting, I request you to please do like, share and subscribe my channel and also give your feedback in the comment section. What is in this topic? Topic 1 is Bengal and the Jamindar. So first point of this topic is that about 85% of the population of India lived in villages and were involved in agricultural production. East India Company, that is EYC, established the empire in the countryside and implemented its revenue policies and what these policies mean to different sections of the people and how these policies changed their lives. Law introduced by the state had consequences for people. They determined who grow richer and poorer, who acquires new land and where peasants will go when they need the money. Colonial rule was first established in Bengal in 1797. There was an auction in Bardhaman. By introducing the permanent settlement, the British planned to resolve the problem that had been facing since the conquest of Bengal. The rural economy of Bengal is in crisis with the recurrent famines and decline agricultural output. The permanent settlement came into action in 1793. The East India Company had fixed the revenue that each jamindar had to pay. Those who failed their estates were auctioned by 95% of the sale of the auction was fictitious. The jamindar's estates were publicly sold, but estates remained in control and his jamindari. By 1770s, the rural economy of Bengal was in crisis. Hence, officials felt that resources of the state need to be used for the development of agriculture. Thus, revenues were permanently fixed and property rights were brought. The problem laid in identifying individuals who could both improve agriculture and contracted to pay the fixed revenue to the state. The permanent settlement were made with the Rayas and Talukdars of Bengal, who were classified as Jamindars and had to pay the revenue which was fixed. Jamindar was the revenue collector of the state, collected rent from different villages and paid the revenue to the company and retained differences as his income. He had to pay the companies regularly falling, which his estate could be auctioned. But in the early decades after the permanent settlement, jamindars regularly failed to pay the revenue demand and the dues. The reasons were many. First, the initial demand was very high. The imposition of high demand, the price of agricultural produce was depressed. The peasants could not pay their dues to the jamindar, hence the jamindars could not collect and pay the state. The revenue was invariable and the powers of the jamindars were limited. A group of rich peasants consolidated their position in the villages and were known as Jotdar. They had acquired vast areas of land they controlled and the local trade, money lenders and produce of the poor cultivators. A large part of their land was cultivated through sharecrop, that is called adhyars, who brought their own plows, worked in the field and handed half to the Jotdars after harvest. So, when the estates of jamindars were auctioned for failure to make revenue payment, Jotdars were often the buyers. The Jotdars were the most powerful in North Bengal. In some places, they are called mandals or gantidars. Many of the changes were documented and reported to the British Parliament in 1813. The fifth report ran into 1002 pages. It was one such report produced by a selected committee headed by Firminger. It became a basis for the debate on the nature of East India Company's rule in India. Now come to the topic 2, that is Santhal and Paharias. What is in this topic is that Francis Buchanan toured the Rajmahal hills in the early years of the 19th century. These hills were impenetrable and he felt that the people were hostile and were not willing to talk. People living around the Rajmahal hills were known as Paharias. Their sustenance was on produce of the forest and they practiced shifting cultivation. As landless shifting cultivators, food gatherers, and silkworm rearers, the life of Paharias was connected to forest and they considered the whole of region as their land and registered outsiders. The chiefs maintained the unity in the group and settled disputes. The Paharias regularly raided the plains where agriculturists and zamindars had to pay regular tribute to save themselves. The last decade of 18th century witnessed extension of agriculture in eastern India for British. The extension of settled agriculture was necessary to increase land revenue and the production of crops. This intensified the conflict between the Paharias and the settled agriculturists. In 1810, Santhals arrives in the hilly areas of Rajmahal. They cleared the forest and cut wood and started growing rice and cotton by plowing the land. Since Santhals started establishing their authority, the Paharias had to recede further deep into Rajmahal forest. The Paharias were not willing to use plough for cutting the forest. Contrary to this, Santhals appeared to be the ideal dwellers and till the land. The settled area, a very large part of land, was demarcated as Damin-e-Koh and was declared as the land of Santhals. They expanded rapidly, and due to this expansion of agriculture as Santhals, there was an increase in revenue. There was an increase in revenue amount of the company. Paharias retreated further into upper hills of arid regions which had a bad impact in their lives and they became poor. Santhals settled at one place, started growing commercial crops, started dealing in trade with moneylenders. But slowly they realized that their lands were slipping from them. State taxed them heavily and moneylenders were charging heavily and lands were confiscated when dues were not paid. Moreover, zamindars were claiming their control over Damin regions, hence Santhals revolted. After the revolt, Santhal Pargana was constructed and British felt that by creating new Pargana and creating new rulers, Santhals would be satisfied. So when company strengthened in its power and trade, they wanted to know more about natural resources. It organized such travels for geologists, geographers, botanists, and physicians like Buchanan was one such individual with extraordinary observing powers. When Buchanan with his people arrived at village, he was perceived as an agent of the Sarkar. Buchanan wrote and described not only what he saw but also how it could be transformed and be productive for the British. He was critical of the lifestyle of forest dwellers and felt that forest could be turned into agricultural land. Now come to the topic 3, a revolt in the countryside. What is in this topic is that throughout the 19th century, peasants in various parts of India rose in revolt against the moneylenders and grain dealers. One such revolt was in Deccan 1875. This revolt spread from Pune to Ahmednagar and the moneylenders were attacked, accounting books were burnt and the debt bonds were destroyed. Terrified of peasant attacks, the Sahukars fled the villages. After 1810, prices rose and the value of produce also rose. As a result, the income of zamindars of Bengal increased, but the British could not ask for a share as a permanent settlement revenue was fixed. Hence, new revenue settlement system was fixed in the areas which were included under the colonial rule during the 19th century. The first revenue system was introduced in the Bombay Deccan in 1820s and the peasants left the villages to new regions as the revenue demand was high. During 1832-34, there was a famine in rural areas and people and cattle died and those who survived had no agricultural stocks to cross through the crisis. Unpaid revenue was high and again peasants were forced to take up loans. Before the decade of 1860, around two-thirds of cotton imported into Britain as raw material came from America. Britain felt that India can supply cotton to her in case of lack of supply of cotton from America, as the soil and labor was available in India. When in 1861 civil war broke in America, panic spread in Britain and the cotton exporters in Bombay tried to meet the British needs. They extended loans to the people to secure the produce. Credit was easily available, hence there was a boom in the market because those who gave out loans were secured about the recovery of their money. This change had a great impact on rural areas of Deccan. Cotton production in Bombay, Deccan expanded with the continuation of American crisis. About 90% of the total import of cotton was imported from India, but it did not bring prosperity among cotton producers. While some rich peasants gained, many remained under the debts of loans. After the American Civil War ended in 1865, America started producing cotton again, and India's export of cotton to Britain declined. The Rayas community was angry because the moneylenders were insulated to their miserable conditions. The British passed a limitation law in 1859 which stated that the bond of loan between the moneylender and the rights would be valid for only 3 years. The main objective of this law was to stop the accumulation of loan for a long time. When the revolt spread in Deccan, the government of Bombay set up a commission to investigate its causes of the riots, and report was submitted to the British Parliament in 1878. When? It's 1878. The report was referred to as Deccan Riots. It provides historians as a source for the study of the riots. Deccan Riots Commission reported that the government demand was not the cause of peasant anger, but the moneylenders were the accused. Official reports are valuable sources for the reconstruction of the history, but they have to be read with care along with evidences from newspapers, unofficial accounts, legal records, and other sources. Now it's time to know the important terms of this chapter. So what is the first term is Raja. Raja means literally king, was a term that was often used to designate powerful jamindars. Talukdar means one who holds a taluk or a connection. Taluk comes to refer to a territorial unit. Rayat is a way to term Rayat, used to designate peasants. Next word is Benami. Benami literally means anonymous, a term in Hindi. Transactions made in the name of a fictitious or relatively insignificant person, whereas the real beneficiary remains unnamed. Lathet. Lathet is literally one wields the lathi or stick, functioned as a strongman of Jamindar. Aquatint means the picture produced by cutting into a copper sheet with acid and then printing it. Sahukar. Sahukar means someone who acts both as a moneylender as well as trader. Rentier. Rentier is a term used to designate people who live on rental income from property. Bahi khatas means the account books. Now it's time to know the dates. The important date is that 1765. In 1765, English East India Company acquired Diwani of Bengal. In 1773, Regulating Act passed by the British Parliament to regulate the activities of the East India Company. 1793, the permanent settlement in Bengal. 1800, the Santals began to come to the Rajmahal Hills and settle there. 1818, first revenue settlement in the Bombay Deccan. 1820, agricultural prices began to fall. 1840 to 50, a slow process of agrarian expansion in the Bombay Deccan, and 1855 to 56, Santhal rebellion, that is, as followed by 1861, that is, cotton boom begins. In 1875, it is riots in Deccan village rebel. So this is the full summary of this whole chapter. I hope you like this video. If you like this video, then please do like, share, and please share your feedback in the comment box. Thank you for watching the video.